I'm glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you being empowered with knowledge so that you can take more control of your life, your wallet, your future. I want you to learn ideas here so that you can save more and spend less. Don't let anybody ever rip you off. We serve you on the web at clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. Coming up, today's Clark-rageous moment, well, kind of a funny one about Halloween. That's right, Halloween shopping season fully underway. And later, a master's degree from a prestigious school for a total of $7,000. It's legit. It's the real deal. I'm going to fill you in. Right now, I want to talk about the newest data from the American Customer Satisfaction Index concerning televisions. So TVs have gotten fancier and fancier. The prices have gotten lower and lower. Black Friday TV prices, and remember, Black Friday is a state of mind and a general range of days now instead of specifically one day. The Black Friday TV prices are going to be ridiculously cheap, and they have to be because everybody pretty much who wants a flat screen TV has one. It's a matter of selling you on the features and all the rest. But of every product category and every service tested each year by the American Customer Satisfaction Index, by far the highest score of any product or service tested. Now, the highest score is earned by televisions. We know from Consumer Reports deep dig data that TVs, regardless of the manufacturer, regardless of the price point, are ultra reliable. The break rate in the first several years of ownership is insignificant. Generally, if you get a TV that's got something wrong with it, it's going to be when you get it home and take it out of the box. The quality of the TVs, off the charts. And I think about what happens at the electronics store when you go to buy a TV and the salesperson starts talking to you about protecting your investment. As I've said to you before, a TV is not an investment. An investment is if you have investment real estate, like a rental property. You have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds. Those are investments. A TV is spending money on lifestyle. So the reliability of TVs is so great that buying the ridiculously overpriced service contractor extended warranty is a terrible waste of your money. Now, I know the salesperson is going to say, well, what happens if this dies out of warranty? And that is a valid question. And that TV, let's say, is not fixable or is expensive to fix. You're going to hate me. You're going to hate me because you listened to me and you didn't buy the trash warranty. But the truth is, the odds are so in your favor that TVs that you're buying today are likely to last for so many years that we're going to have a completely different technology before that TV has ever worn out. You could be an unlucky one. And again, the failure rate is teensy tiny. And maybe you get one that's a bummer. And so then if you follow simple math and odds, the payout on those warranties on TVs is well under 10%. For every dollar people pay in for extended service contracts or warranties, the payout in repairs or replacement is pennies. Now, that you're getting into territory that's really lousy odds, lousy math, like lotteries. So if you love spending your hard-earned money on lottery tickets, dreaming about what beach you're going to be on or what island you're going to buy, then maybe you also would dream that it would be worthwhile to buy the extended warranty or extended service contract on a TV. It is not a valid expense to buy that. Okay, so the other thing, the category that is right behind it in customer satisfaction, appliances. Appliances are not as reliable as TVs. Certain appliances have a higher break rate, but appliances are incredibly reliable today. And I would never buy an extended warranty or service contract on an appliance. But if you ever did buy on one or the other, an appliance would come before a TV, where there's never a circumstance I could think of where it makes sense to buy that warranty. So I wanted to tell you one other thing about TVs. In addition to the fact they're going to be incredibly cheap through the whole Black Friday season, because it's now a whole season for Black Friday, Roku, just in time for the big fall TV extravaganza, has put out its new line of Roku devices, ROKU. They're taking pre-orders now. The Rokus are the best device that exists for watching TV of all contents. Streaming content, traditional live broadcast, pay TV. Rokus are fantastic. And Roku now has a streaming device for 4K at $79. And they have an even fancier one for streaming 4K for $99. So you may wonder, if you have one of those smart TVs that's a 4K, wouldn't it be redundant to buy a Roku? And no, it wouldn't, because the Roku platform for finding programming available, whether it's high def or 4K or HDR, is so much better than what anybody else has, that even taking a smart TV and putting in one of these new Rokus would be actually a good use of your money. Sam is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Sam.
Hey, good morning, Clark. Thanks again for taking my phone call. I really appreciate you, your show, and what you do. You're out to help people.
Well, you're so kind. And Sam, you are a beginner stock investor. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm 23 years old, and I just opened my first online trading account, and I wanted to come to you for some financial investment and advice.
So what kind of things are you thinking of doing with this account? Is this something you're intending as like a Roth? Are you going to have it as retirement money, or is this just a straight investment account?
Well, I was reading on one of the things that you posted on your Facebook about how a young investor or something made 6 digits and by his age or whatever, and one of his things was always have a side income. And I know I probably shouldn't look at putting money into the stock market as an income, because I could lose it at any minute, you know. But I figure maybe that could be one way I do it, instead of, you know, going and grabbing another job, because I already, you know, come the first of the year, I'll be a business owner and I'll have my hands pretty full with that.
Well, investing is something that I'm such a strong believer in, because when you invest in companies, it essentially makes you a small part owner in those enterprises, and wealth ultimately over time flows to owners. So I support that completely, and doing so at such a young age at 23 means that you've got time to make a ton of money. Having said that, I like for the first money you look at investing to be money that you put a long horizon on, not a short one. That it's money that you put in a Roth, because the beauty of a Roth is the money that grows in it, if you make good investment choices, grows tax-free, and you get to spend it tax-free. Where money in an investment account is going to be subject to capital gains tax. So every time you got a big winner, you're going to have the government coming in and grabbing a chunk of that in tax that you don't have to pay if the first dollars you invest each year go into a Roth. and you're allowed to put $5,500 into a Roth, and it can be in the same kind of stock investments as you'd have in a regular investment account. It's just they're tax-free instead of taxable.
Now, when you say $5,500, is that's a month, correct?
No, that's the max you can do per year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Are you looking at investing a lot more than that per year?
Not necessarily, no. You know, maybe a little bit farther down the road, but the position I'm in right now, I don't see how I could, no.
So that's why doing the Roth today at 23 and doing it over the years ahead, where every year the first investing you do is up to the max you're allowed to do in a Roth, because it grows tax-free, and it's really an investment in your long-term future, because the money just grows and grows and grows through the decades, however you choose to invest in the account, and then you spend it all tax-free. Are you thinking whether you do the investment account you called me about, or you modify that and put the money into a Roth, are you thinking of buying individual stocks and individual companies, or what are you thinking of doing in that account?
When I called you, or when I emailed you, it was for individual companies, individual stocks. Several, or one of the stocks that I'm a strong believer in their product, they're down right now quite a bit, but they're about to release they had their show on all their new stuff they're coming out with. They're about to release it come October 23rd, and the holiday season's coming up. So the way I'm looking at it is, if I was to buy stock, their stock, there's a good chance over these next, 4 months that it's going to go up quite a bit.
So if you do that in a Roth account and you were to hold it for months rather than years, then it's not taxable. If you do that in an investment account, you get hit with a punitive tax bill if you own for months rather than years, known as short-term gain. And so you want things that you hold a year or longer in an investment account. If you want to do a lot of in this stock, out of this stock, that kind of thing, that is best done in a Roth. And I have no problem at all with you, Sam, concentrating on individual stocks. I think that's fine. You sound like somebody who's going to do your research and own individual stocks. I no longer do research in stocks. So everything I own, Sam, is through index funds, where I own little pieces of hundreds or thousands of companies, depending on the index. And I don't have to pick and choose. I just hold that segment of the market. And there is a philosophy that you start with the little pieces like I'm doing in index funds, and then you explore beyond it with individual stocks. But you're getting started in this. Do what you want. Try the individual stock investing. If you turn out to be good at identifying companies that have real promise, it'll be great for you. But the best part, the most important thing, is that you're living on less than what you make, so you have money to invest in the first place. Go look at my investment guide at clark.com and see how you can build your portfolio from the ground up, and why I love the Roth so much. It is time for people to start spending money for Halloween, and, well, is it Clark-rageous or not how much people are spending? I don't even know that it's fair for me to hit the Clark-rageous moment sounder for this. But the amount of money we're spending on Halloween this year, according to research done by the National Retail Federation, wouldn't be a foundation, it's not a charity, Federation, is way up from last year's Halloween. Americans are opening up the wallets for Halloween. We're spending an average $83 a person on costumes, candy, decorations. Overwhelmingly, Americans are going to buy costumes this year. Nearly 3/4 of Americans are going to be buying costumes. The funniest thing is the amount of money Americans are spending buying costumes for their pets, for their dogs and cats, You've got like 16 animals now at your house. How many do you have now?
Me?
Yeah. 5, 6?
I have 4 pets, but I have to say now with Pinterest and everything out there, I was looking for do-it-yourself costumes, and I'm going to start now. Now's the time to make them myself. I think I'm going to make my dog into either a lettuce roll or a piece of sushi, because I found do-it-yourself costumes that would be cheap.
And what about the other 3 animals?
They're not getting dressed up. I'm only dressing up the dog because our farmer's market has a costume contest.
So 1 in 6 pets apparently are going to be dressed up this Halloween. My wife has done this. We were talking about this in our family about dressing up our 2 dogs for Halloween. And I just feel so bad for them. They hate being put into those things. And I know that people think they're cute and all that. But, the other thing about this I was thinking about with the spending up so much, people either are looking more for an escape or are feeling better about their wallets, that the spending for Halloween is going to be up so much. The number one thing people are looking at buying is superhero costumes, that's what people want. And the number of kids that are expressing a desire for a superhero costume is 1 in 5. So the thing to do, if you have a kid who's Clark smart, you get a kid to buy the costume that isn't selling, that's on clearance. I mean, the other kids are going to be spending all that money for the superhero kind of thing.
And you could put skates around your neck and call yourself a cheapskate.
Ooh, that's perfect. Is that what I should be?
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports this podcast. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. You see, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? Well, with Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. It helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/save. That's quickenloans.com/SAVE. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
It's great having you here today on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. I talk all the time about the role of education and continuing education and training in a constantly changing environment. I'm going to talk more about that next hour as well. But the education thing I want to talk about right now. By the way, our web address, clark.com. Lots of education there, clark.com. When you have a question, clark.com/ask. I talk about going to get more education through your lifetime. But what's happened so often is the cost of education has gotten so high that even when somebody intends to get an education, well, they can't afford the bills and they drop out or they don't attend. And I'm so frustrated by the lack of discipline in colleges and universities to control expenses and provide more affordable education. And I talk about the community colleges and the role they play at bridging some of that gap. But listen to this. Georgia Tech, which is considered to be one of the premier engineering schools in the United States, has an online degree that I talked about it when it was first being organized years ago, that has now stood the test of time, where you can get a computer science master's for $7,000. That's the cost. It's an all online degree. And I read a blogger post about the steps that Georgia Tech went through to make sure that the quality of the online, both in terms of the students that would be in the program and the quality, the caliber of the education computer science would be equal to the traditional classroom environment master's degree. And they were able to put this thing together and make it happen for a total of plus or minus a few dollars, around $7,000. You compare that to the typical master's degree program, which it's not unusual for a master's degree program to be between $50,000 and $75,000. Our producer, Krista, had been noodling getting, are you still noodling getting a master's?
MBA. Mm-hmm.
You are still noodling that?
Yes.
And the tuition costs that you have seen for the programs you've considered are how much?
Well, I'm looking at these programs where you can work full time and do it. So the prices are astronomical.
No, these are the ones they call eMBAs,
right,
where they expect corporations that have no idea what the value of a dollar is,
right,
that they'll pay too much for their employees to go to those programs.
It's between they're like, most of them are 50 to 70,000.
Oh, just in the range I was talking about. And so the education system is part of the problem, not part of the solution, in creating more affordable, approachable education choices. And I just absolutely tip my hat to Georgia Tech for, when I talked about it years ago, I was so tentative, but I was so excited that somebody was trying to create an affordable program. And what I've read is that they are not losing money on it. They've been able to make the math work for them. Well, they're math and engineering school. So they made the math work to make the program affordable and make it also something that was not a drain on resources on the university. And I think, this is a different topic that comes up from time to time. If we're going to make education more affordable in the United States, we have to end the carte blanche ability to borrow unlimited amounts through student loans. Takes all the pressure off colleges and universities to run efficient organizations and operations, where we'd have a lot more creativity, a lot more ingenuity, and a lot more breakthroughs like this master's degree program from Georgia Tech. Right now, they're the next best thing. And I talk about this with families all the time when parents are all agitated and nervous about how their teenager is going to be able to go to college and how they're going to be able to afford it. And they really look at me like I got like 3 heads or something when I start talking about spending the first 2 years at community college. And it's like there's this certain mentality that's beneath my child. And that's your personal choice in your family and your family's culture. But I think there's great advantages to a son or daughter going to a community college, which then can open up wider choices of what you could then afford for junior and senior year. And a kid is not going to be in a factory as a freshman or sophomore. The real joke of so many colleges is the way they mistreat the freshmen and sophomores, putting them in these classrooms with hundreds or thousands of students in the class. You go to a community college, they're still real teaching institutions, and the class sizes are small, and the student gets actually real attention. So people who are going to be innovative and provide more affordable choices for our kids to get an education, I'm all about. Ben is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Ben.
Hey, Clark, how are you doing?
Great, thank you. You want to talk about grad school? I
do. I recently just started about 2 months ago working on another master's degree in analytics. And,
so I'm talking to a brainiac.
No.
So when you tell somebody at a social event or a party that you're getting a master's in analytics, are they like ecstatic to talk to you, or they look away, look for someone else to talk to?
Yeah, they're wanting someone to come rescue them, I think.
Yeah, but you're going to be the one who's going to have quite a career path, aren't you?
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. That's why I'm going back to get it.
Okay.
So I'm working full time My wife and I are both working full time, and I'm able to pay for the first semester tuition on my own.
Fantastic.
And so what I'm looking at doing is I'm going to work on this degree, probably be done by August 2018, so about another year and a half, a little bit more. But instead of borrowing money for tuition, I was wondering, I have a home equity line of credit, and we do relatively well. We have a pretty large line there and a really low interest rate. So what I was hoping to do is either borrow against that and pay it down as I could. But my real question was, I'd rather not pay interest on that as I borrow against it. I was wondering what your advice would be about getting a 0% credit card for the next 18 months. And at least while I'm paying that down on the credit card, the money would be going towards the actual principal and not interest on the home equity line.
I love that. I mean, I think that's absolutely fine. If you have the level of credit headroom that you could do a 0% teaser rate for 12 to 18 months, and then the unpaid balance you pay off with one of those quote-unquote convenience checks from your home equity line.
Right, yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Just make sure you don't miss a date about when you'd have to pay that off. And I prefer, with the options you have, I prefer those to a graduate student loan, which carry pretty high prevailing interest rates.
Right. When I was looking around at how to finance the degree, my home equity line seemed to be the best option. It had the lowest rate.
However, there is one thing to be alerted to, and that is that the loan you would do that would be a student loan would likely be at a fixed rate, where the home equity line is going to be a floating rate. So you don't want to leave that balance outstanding for an exceedingly long period of time, because when interest rates adjust to more normal, you could see the interest rate shoot up significantly past what the fixed rate would be on a graduate student loan.
Right. Well, my goal, and the way I've kind of mapped it out, is to have about 60 to 70% of the tuition actually paid for by the time I graduate in less than 2 years.
Then I'm not worried about you at all, and your plan is perfect.
Okay. So what should I look for in the 0%
You're studying analytics.
card?
I mean, you didn't need me to figure this out. You're smarter about this than I would be, right?
Well, I don't know as much about credit and things as you do.
Okay.
So for the 0% cards, I was looking at the Chase Freedom card that they have out now, and I was wondering if you could tell me if there's a particular card you prefer that's out there.
No, I mean,
right
if you're
now.
doing a 0%, it's just a matter of finding the best that will cover the amount of money you need to borrow and will cover the period of time that you want to do the 0%, and look at what if there's an upfront fee you have to pay, which is like front-loaded interest,
okay,
then the balance transfer fee or whatever, that's what you should concentrate on from offer to offer.
Okay.
Because many of the 0% are not truly 0%. You prepay some amount of interest up front in the acquisition fee.
Okay.
But I love your entire strategy, and it's a great thing that you'll have most of the cost of that degree paid off before you even complete the degree. Phil is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Phil, you got a question about your car loan.
Yeah. Hey, Clark. Awesome show. I love listening to you.
Well, you're kind. Thank you. What's the deal with your car?
Yeah, I've got a veteran, and I'm about to retire from the military in about a year.
Thank you for your service. What branch are you in?
Air Force.
Well, thank you for what you've done for our nation.
Appreciate that, Clark.
And Phil, I need to tell you, whatever cheap phone service I recommended that you get,
about on it, 1,000.
I think I'm going to have to put you on hold for a minute and see if we can get you a better signal. This is the problem with my cheap phone services. They may not work, right? Grog is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Grog. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Great. You have a house that you're trying to sell. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how can I be of help with that?
It's been on the market for 2.5, almost 3 months, and I'm considering doing owner financing since we own it outright.
I love owner financing.
What are the pros and cons to it?
So the pro is that in today's very low interest rate environment, you'll earn more being the mortgage company than you could generate from the money that you would get as proceeds from the sale of the house. And so you're able to get an at-market interest rate, which is so much more than anything else available to you, really. And for your buyer, it generally means lower cost to get the house closed than it would be if they're using a traditional bank loan. Now, the bad side for you is if you don't get sufficient down payment and the people you sell to don't pay and you have to foreclose, it's expensive and time-consuming. And I've actually had to do that once. I've done owner financing over and over and over again over the years. And one time I had a buyer that I'd gotten 20% down from, which, by the way, is the minimum you want if you're the bank. Mm-hmm. And I had to foreclose anyway. They just never wanted to make a payment. And then the individual, the day of the foreclosure, filed for bankruptcy, which put it off a while. And so the expenses that I had, legal expenses and all that, ate up a great amount of that 20% down. And then I had to turn around and sell the property again.
So what happens if they if you foreclose? Do they get any of the money back, or is it wiped clean, or how does that work?
Generally, it depends on the laws in each state, but as a practical matter, if you were to end up in a position you had to foreclose on somebody that you did owner financing, the expenses you have processing that foreclosure will wipe out much of that equity because it's based on the expenses you have of foreclosing and whatever filing fees and all that you have, legal expenses, minus what the property sells for later. If the house sells, and again, this varies by state. Sure. If the house sells at a very good price to the next buyer, you may, depending on state laws, have to share part of that gain with the person foreclosed on. But that's a very rare occurrence.
And that's not until the house sells again.
Right.
It's not like
exactly.
You have to turn around and give money back.
Right. Now, the other thing is that, as I said, I've done owner financing many times, and only one time did it ever blow up on me, and I still ended up okay because of the down payment. Right.
And like you said, a larger down payment is required.
Right. So as long as you're getting decent down payment money, you require a check of the person's credit. You have the loan agreement drawn up properly by a real estate lawyer. It can work out beautifully with a very nice return. Todd is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Todd, you are a customer of Wells Fargo. How many different ways?
We have both. We have actually 3 accounts: savings and regular checking, and our mortgage.
And all the stuff that's happened with them, has it made you nervous?
Yeah, it makes me actually quite furious. I mean, they're just one of many of the big banks that have been caught doing some pretty shady things, and I feel like my family and I want to figure out the best way to help hold them accountable, just as a little guy.
Well, you're stuck with them with your mortgage. You can't do anything about that, but you can certainly kick them to the curb on your checking and savings accounts. But the mortgage, you can't just easily do anything about that. But anybody who's a Wells Fargo customer, I would really be looking over my shoulder doing business with them, because the rot has come out in the testimony in Congress. The rot is really deep and goes all the way to the CEO. And the board of directors obviously was either asleep at the switch or was part of this vast conspiracy to cheat 2 million people 2 million times. So I would bail on them. Go find another place. Do you have any direct deposit set up or automatic bill pays through Wells Fargo?
Yeah, I do have some direct deposits.
Those you got to pay close attention to because you don't want to mess up those. But, other financial institutions, banks, credit unions, online banks will help you. Many of them have what are known as switch kits that'll help you with firing Wells Fargo, at least for the checking and savings, and moving your money somewhere else. You're going to get a much better deal if you look at a smaller bank, you look at a credit union, and look on an online bank, and fire them. That's what they deserve.
There's something about TrueCar that a lot of people don't even know. Here it is. Using TrueCar can also help you buy a used car. That's right. In fact, there are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from TrueCar's certified dealers nationwide. So whether you're looking to buy a brand new car or a used car, you can get all the upfront pricing information that empowers you. You can also get discounts off the list price for used cars and a totally better buying experience through the TrueCar certified dealer network. That's where you see what other people paid for the car that you want, so you know you're getting a fair price and you can feel confident. And with TrueCar, you connect with a local certified dealer of your choice so you can enjoy a quick, easy buying experience. You can use the TrueCar website or the TrueCar app, so it's easy to find the new or used car that you want. You just take your guaranteed savings certificate to a TrueCar certified dealer, and you'll save money on that used car. And if you're buying new, the average TrueCar user saves $3,279 off MSRP. Over 2 million people have already bought their cars through the TrueCar certified dealer network. So if you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar.com or take it with you by downloading the TrueCar app and enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's all about you and your wallet. Coming up a half hour from now, we're going to talk about how we in the United States have changed the balance of power over oil. And the things going on right now are benefiting you and me as consumers. And what's not being talked about as well is what an enormous benefit we're having in the United States in the economy and jobs. Our web address, clark.com. You got a question for me, clark.com/ask. And speaking of jobs, the political discourse right now in the country is very frustrating for me because I am a fierce advocate of free trade. And the political conversation in the country across the political spectrum is very anti-free trade. A lot of people talking smack about NAFTA as an example. And there are reasons why people are attacking, and politicians, people running for office, are attacking free trade so much. And again, I know that it's a very unpopular thing for me to talk about something like free trade, but I want you to know why I feel so strongly that for America to remain strong, we can't hide from the world. There's a reservoir of frustration and anger in the United States because incomes are not even back to where they were at the very end of the last century. And we're close, but we're not even there yet. So overall, as a society, people have treaded water economically for almost a generation. And even though we're about even after a big decline following the financial scandals and the Great Recession, we've come back up from that, but we're still not where we were. And those gains have not been equally distributed, as we've talked about so much as a country, with the top sliver of Americans, generally the top 10 to 20%, are doing significantly better than they were a generation ago. Everybody else just fighting to keep their heads above water generally. But nobody has had more difficulty than men. Men have had significant episodes of unemployment. Men have seen their incomes decline. Men have had a tough time. And it's because we are now in an economy that education is so key, and continuing education and training at the core of how you do in the job market, how you retain jobs, how you obtain jobs. And men just don't enter college at the rates women do, and men don't finish college anywhere near the rate that women do. Roughly 6 in 10 people in college are women, even though men are just a hair under half the population. Men have significantly less interest and desire, it seems, to get into school and stay in school. And so you take manufacturing. The United States, we're manufacturing more goods than we ever have. And we are a manufacturing powerhouse. But the jobs are not anywhere like they were in number or in what those jobs are. Because today, because of robotics, automation, whatever you want to call the advanced technologies, a single individual can produce the amount of goods that, depending on the factory, somewhere between 5 and 7 people did just a generation ago. And the one person who has the job of 5 to 7 people, he or she have to have far more levels of skills, training, education in order to fill that job. People have upset, anger, frustration with trade and look at trade as being the problem. The reality is, I know this is just the kind of thing that makes people frustrated and furious, but the reality is trade ultimately makes societies much wealthier. But in our case, for America, trade is the tie that binds us to countries around the world. We're the biggest dog in the world. We are it. We are the most dominant country in the history of planet Earth. And one of the things that binds even people who don't care for us that much around the world are the trade relationships we have with them. So forget from raw economics. I could bore you from now till the cows come home, whatever that expression means, with why trade creates more wealth for our own society and potentially for others, with great dislocation to people who in a specific job, specific factory, specific industry may suffer because of an open market of trade. And it's no comfort to you if you lost your job that I'm telling you that in the overall picture it creates more wealth, but it does. And consumers get goods that are better and cheaper as a result of having an open market. But forgetting all that, I am huge on national defense. And I think that us remaining powerful in the world is so essential for American interests and to protect the American people. And trade relationships with foreign countries are essential to maintaining our influence, position, and power in the world, both militarily and economically. This is not what you're going to hear from any political candidate, save maybe Gary Johnson. But the reality is, it's not popular to talk about this. There's a lot of frustration and anger across our land. And we may make decisions that have the effect of harming America's wealth and position in the world because we cannot turn our backs on the world because we are intertwined whether we like it or not. So On the web, if you go to Clark.com, go to our community section, we have our message board called Clark Stinks. If you were very upset with me for even discussing this, please go to Clark Stinks and let me know why you feel I'm missing the picture, either the smaller part of the picture or the big picture. But I don't do politics. But I will talk about the economic implications of political decisions. I love this country. We are a great country. And we do not need to fear our ability to compete with others in the world. Phil is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Phil, we tried to talk earlier and we just couldn't make it happen. How's your phone now?
Well, I'm standing in one spot and I have 3 bars, Clark.
Perfect. So you want to talk about your car loan, right?
That's correct. Basically, I have about a year left in the service and about a year left, a little over a year left to pay off an auto loan.
And I think you told me you're in the Air Force?
Yes, sir.
And thank you for that. How many years service?
Just over 19 right now.
Oh, you smart man. You're going to hit 20, which is, we undercompensate our military personnel and for the entire time you serve, and then it springs back with what you get when you get 20 years or more of service. And so it's an overdue bill to you that we're going to start paying next year. And thank you for what you've done.
Thanks, Clark. I appreciate that a lot. Basically, I have about a little over a year left on a truck loan. The interest rate's 1.99. I have some money that I've made in a taxable mutual fund, and I was thinking about, because it's gone up substantially, maybe taking some of that money and paying off the auto loan. But does it make sense with the low interest rate of 1.99?
It's such a low interest rate that I wouldn't see that as being a high priority. So this mutual fund, you specifically feel like you should sell some of the shares now?
I do. It's went up significantly, and I know I'm going to pay taxes on the earnings from it because it isn't a taxable mutual fund account, S&P 500 type account. And so I know I'm going to take a tax hit on some.
So it's in an index fund in S&P 500?
Yes, it is.
All right. The good news is that you will be eligible for favorable tax treatment on the gain, and you'll be taxed at long-term capital gains. And since we do underpay people serving in the U.S. military, the tax rate that you will pay for the initial profit will be 0. Once you cross a certain threshold, you'll still pay a very reasonable tax rate on the gain. So you get back all your original investment plus with minimal tax on the gain you'll have had.
Okay. Now, when I do end up, I guess, use the word cash out or take some of that fund, is it better to take the last in, first out option when I do that?
Well, you're selling the whole position, right?
Well, I was gonna leave some of it because it grew up so much that I think to take some from it. And maybe you can do some
harvesting, but again, your tax rate is so favorable serving in the military that I wouldn't even worry about it. The company managing the fund for you will have standardized tax reporting they'll do, and I think you'll be fine with that. You don't need to try to tax harvest that. But the thing I would like for you to consider instead of paying off the car loan is take some of that money and throw it in a Roth IRA.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about Roths, and I'm currently in another Roth through another company besides the one I'm using S&P.
So you could take the money from the company that's going to give you the proceeds and just throw it into that Roth you have, because you're allowed to put up to $5,500 each year in a Roth, and then that money, and we wouldn't be talking about tax bills. because the money you'd put in there would just grow tax-free all through the years and be spent tax-free.
Okay.
So I would not pay off a 1.99% car loan. And which credit union wrote you a loan that cheap?
I think that one was, initially I think it was Pentagon or Navy, one of those two.
I was at an event recently. Pentagon Federal Credit Union was the first credit union I was ever a member of when I was actually a civilian employee with the Air Force at one time. And okay. I'm now a member of Navy Federal, and the Pentagon Federal Credit Union people I just saw were very upset with me. I'm not a member of that anymore. Both of them are great credit unions, though, and good for you saving this money, investing, and having success with it. Daryl's with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Daryl. How are you today?
Good, Clark. How are you today? And it's a pleasure to be able to talk with you.
Well, great to hear that you are retired and you're going to travel the country.
Well, we're going to try to here. You know, after all these years of both military and civil service, and by the way, we want to thank you for your patriotism as well. It's time to enjoy a little bit. So
thank you very much.
But anyway, you know, we think we're pretty savvy consumers. You know, we try to be perceptive of the scams, etc. And after listening to your show for several years, we realized just how many gaps in our knowledge we have. So we always appreciate your sage advice that has provided us an opportunity to save money as well as be an aware consumer. So
thank you.
Thanks for that, Clark.
And you want to talk about doing your banking as you travel the country, right?
Well, yes, exactly. You know, we followed your advice on the identity theft protection options, freezing our Social Security number, doing all the long passwords with alphanumeric and special characters, etc., two-factor authentication into websites. And
good for you. You're like the only one. But now you face a gap when you're on the road, don't you?
Right. Now when we're not at home and we have all the unprotected or unsecured networks, the internet cafes and the other restaurants, et cetera. All those.
Yeah, you can't use those for any of your banking.
Exactly. So the options are I could use the cell data off the cell phone, but at my age, my vision, stinky keyboard, fat fingers, not a good combination.
All right, let me tell you what I would do then. Ready?
Okay. Yes, sir.
I would go to straighttalk.com.
Okay.
And I would buy one of their mobile hotspots.
Okay.
And then as you need data, you can use it. And the data plans are not as good as they used to be. They work out to be effectively $15 to $20 a month, depending on how much data you want. And only use the hotspot, the Straight Talk hotspot, which should get you down to $15 a month, when you need to, or the alternative on your cell phone, which may be cheaper, add a hotspot plan onto your cell phone where you can run your laptop off your cell phone hotspot. A great deal, by the way, if you're a T-Mobile or Sprint customer. And then you're able to do the web surfing you need to do your online banking.
Here's an important question for you. Are you looking for a way where you can save money, have a little fun, and get yourself back into shape? Of course you are. Everybody is. Well, look no further than Evelo electric bicycles. That's right, electric bicycles. Don, a happy Evelo customer from Missouri, just bought one of them, and he's already gone 900 miles in just 2 months. He rides it to work, he rides it on weekends, he takes it out on errands, and he uses the powerful electric motor to conquer all the steep hills, and he never arrives sweaty. Here's what Don had to say. The bike has been amazing. I'm pleased with how much I've been able to incorporate it into my everyday life. It's recreation, grocery shopping, and the biggest one of all, commuting. Seriously, just think about how much money he's already saved by not fueling up his car every day, and all the health benefits because he's outside riding a bicycle. He pedals when he's comfortable, and then he sits back when he wants the motor to kick in. Sounds pretty good, huh? Well, there's more good news for you, because just because you're a listener of this podcast, Evelo has a special offer for you. You can get $150 off any Evelo e-bike, plus you get free pannier bags and a bonus extended warranty. You can check them out right now at evelo.com/podcast. That's EVELO.com/podcast. And the next time you're gliding uphill, think about this podcast. Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
I'm so glad to have you here on the Clank Howard Show, where you learn ideas so you can save more and spend less. And don't let anyone ever rip you off. You can follow me at facebook.com/Clank Howard. On the web, clark.com. When you have a question, clark.com/ask. So the oil cartel, OPEC, failed to enter into a price-fixing agreement. And so oil prices and, in turn, gasoline into the foreseeable future, barring some unexpected event in the world, are going to remain really favorable for you and me as a consumer. The cost of a gallon of gasoline at wholesale is $1.42 right now. Did you hear me? Wholesale, $1.42 a gallon. So the price from there, depending on where you live in the country, based on local taxes, how competitive your local retail gasoline market is, affects then the dealer markup. And that's why we have such a disparity in prices from one part of the country to another. But it all starts with that wholesale price of a gallon of gasoline. And we in the United States are the reason that OPEC is struggling to try to boost that price of gasoline, oil, and then in turn gasoline. And the benefit you and I have had as consumers is all because of the ingenuity and guts of people who started doing hydraulic fracking to extract what had prior been impossible to reach oil under the ground. It has been an enormous benefit to us as a country that we have done so. And here's the great, great, great news. You know, when the price of a barrel of oil collapsed, there were all these dire predictions that American oil production would collapse, that the companies would not be able to compete, and that we, the United States, would go back to begging for supplies from overseas. And do you know why the experts were wrong? Because they failed to understand the ingenuity and the creativity of the entrepreneurs who had brought all those new supplies to market. They've managed to dramatically reduce the cost of getting the oil out of the ground. And now we're not the cheapest producer in the world, but we've taken something that by all rights should be some of the most expensive barrels of oil to ever pull out of the ground, and we're now a mid-cost producer in the world. And it's because of this ingenious group of oil workers and oil companies that we have in the United States. So this is not just good, this is outstanding. And you take oil and natural gas in combination, and by some measurements, we in the United States may well now be the largest energy-producing country in the world. So it's good for our country, it's good for our security, and it's good for your and my wallets. And this is just a great circumstance that you and I think about it every time you pull into a gas station and you go back to the peak gasoline price, which was 7 years ago. And you go in and you fill a typical tank, which people typically put 15 gallons in when they're filling up. It was $60 to fill up at that point. Today, it's 30 some odd dollars. That difference, which is an enormous difference, is going in people's pockets or not leaving their pockets, whichever way you want to look at it, it's almost like a tax cut. But I want to emphasize something that has become even more pronounced than when I talked about it back in June. The opportunity right now, if you will go against all the grain, against how everybody is doing things right now, and you buy a fuel-efficient vehicle, nobody wants them, and they are being given away. And nothing is a better deal in the marketplace right now than a used electric car. Talk about something people don't want. A used Nissan Leaf. They're selling for $7,000 or $8,000 right now with like almost no miles on them. And they cost like nothing to run. So it's all coming up great on the energy front. And it's because of that special secret sauce we have in America, the people that are willing to take a chance, use a new way of doing things, and change the balance of power, at least in terms of energy, worldwide. Leslie's with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you, Leslie. And you are right from energy country yourself.
Yes, Texas.
Where in Texas do you live?
You wouldn't know it. It's Nacogdoches.
Of course I know that. Both my brothers went to the university.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. For people who are uninitiated and uninformed, the university is the University of Texas. Do you know why I didn't go to the university?
Why?
I wasn't smart enough to get in.
Well, I don't believe that, but anyway.
It's a true story.
That's hard to believe.
So now that I've told you that my brothers were smart enough to go to the University of Texas and I wasn't, would you like for one of them to answer your question, or would you like me to take a stab?
No, I'll be fine since I've already got you on the line.
All right. Well, how can I help?
Well, I'm retired, and I conservatively got my money invested in, it's not really invested, it's in a CD. And it makes about, the interest rates are so low, it's my nest egg. And the interest rates are so terrible that it makes about $800 a year, which doesn't even keep up with inflation. So I was thinking of going with an online bank, but I just recently started online banking at my own brick and mortar bank here in town myself, because I'm kind of old and leery about online banking anyway. I'm just wondering which just plain old online bank is the best with their CDs. They sound so good.
Yeah, so there's a survey that's done daily by an outfit called bankrate.com. And you can go on there and see for different terms what the best is you're going to find on CDs of various lengths. For example, today, the best on a one-year CD is 1.3%.
1.3?
Yeah.
I've seen it at 1.85, and that was, wow.
The 1.85, I see the 1.85, but that looks like it's a 5-year CD.
Oh, okay.
And I would not go 5 years out right now.
Yeah.
Because with the likelihood that interest rates are gradually going to rise, having your money tied up for a 5-year window might be pretty painful. However, since you can earn 50% more essentially on a 5-year CD than a one, you could take some of your money and put it in a 5-year CD, and then a year from now take some of the 1-year money and put it maybe in a new 5-year CD, expecting interest rates to be higher a year from now. But if you take all that money and you put it in a 5-year CD, you're locking in today's very low interest rates.
Yes, and they've been low. I'm just wondering how safe online banking is.
Completely. 100%. Yeah, up to $250,000, it is without doubt totally safe.
Your money just, I think maybe I'll, go online sometime and disappear or something.
Nope. Nope, it'll be just fine. Don't fret at all.
And I know you have a section on your website about which banks which banks rock, which online banks rock.
Yeah, well, there with a CD or savings account, you can even put your money with an online bank that's a crummy one because you're not doing your checking with them. You're not doing the heavy transactions. You're just doing the one-time thing, buying a CD. So I recommend buying a CD from just whoever is paying the highest rate. I just grab it. And if you look at Bankrate, they have the financial strength ratings on the banks. And so go with one that obviously is as strong as it could be. Jason's with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Howard.
Jason, you sold off your house.
I did.
That's great news, except where are you going to live now?
Well, that'll be a conversation for next year.
Okay.
In the interim, though, I did take the proceeds and pay off some credit cards, and I had always heard that it's not a great thing for your credit score to close any open accounts. So I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
That's 100% correct. So having zero balance on the cards gives a huge boost to your credit score because the balances work into a ratio that accounts for almost a third of what makes up your credit score. And
Great.
So having them paid off means all that credit line that's there makes you look like a superstar with how you handle credit. And so there'd be no reason to close any existing credit line.
Okay. I had probably like 10 outstanding cards. Some are store, some are just regular. There are a lot of redundancy, so I wanted to kind of streamline it.
Just don't use them, but don't close them.
Okay.
Because what will happen eventually is you'll get potentially an inactivity letter from a credit card. And they say, if you don't use this for at least one transaction in the next 45 days, we're firing you.
Yes.
But it's a while before they get to that. And it's better for you to have that available credit. And if you really want to really work the system to your maximum advantage, you'll use the cards that you're letting go stale twice a year. Just it can be for the tiniest transaction. And then you just pay that bill when it comes in. And it keeps that card active and available moving forward, and you won't have to worry about an inactivity notice.
Okay. And then when I am ready to buy a house again, I was also worried about the debt-to-income ratio for potential debt if I have those open cards that are not being used. What are your thoughts on that?
That is a great question. So some lenders, some mortgage underwriters will say, you're freaking me out here, Jason. You got available credit to you. I know you're not using it, but you have available credit of blah, blah, blah dollars. And I don't like that. So that would be the point. If that happened and that was the lender you wanted to go with, that you would can the store cards.
Great.
Because store cards are looked at as junk credit anyway.
Okay.
So that would be when you have to get rid of anything, you start with those. And if the underwriter at the mortgage company is still unhappy, then if you had to close a credit card or two of a general nature card, of a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, you could do it then. But you want to keep as many of those open going forward as you possibly can, even through the process of getting a mortgage. John joins us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, John.
Hi, Clark.
John, you are very, very popular with hackers, I guess.
Unfortunately.
What's happened to you?
Clark, I got a hotel reward card 5 years ago because of the type of points program that I wanted to maximize. And just Saturday, I got hacked for the fourth time on the same account in 5 years. It's crazy.
So are you a frequent guest of the particular hotel chain?
That's correct.
All right. Odds are that's where the hacks are taking place. It's been a real Achilles heel for the hotel industry is hackers specifically target high-value business travelers and the hotels that they frequent. So if I'm a hacker, I want to get at people who've got the most money, right?
Yes.
And people who stay in what are often referred to as expense account hotels tend to have high credit limits on the credit cards and high charge volume. So unusual activity by a crook is not noticed as quickly. So they make off with a fair amount of money, and the very, very strong possibility is the repeat pattern, because it's the only card you're having this happen.
Correct.
Is because of the hotel chain's locations you're staying at. If you were to Google your hotel chain and you put the hotel chain in and you put hack next to it, or hotel, the hotel chain credit card hack, you'll see how this has happened again and again.
My question to you, Clark, would be, do you see this outside of hotel-branded credit cards? Is this something that our society has to come to accept, to expect to get hacked on a repeatable basis? And why can't the companies have technology that can predict this and trace the fraud? I mean, it seems like they particularly said to me, well, that just sounds normal. And I was stunned.
Yeah, it is a normal course of business. And the hotels have been so vulnerable because the hotels use proprietary check-in systems, and most hotels have not updated for the new chip cards. The beauty when the hotel upgrades to the chip card is that even if the criminals tap into the database, it's useless to them because all they've gotten is a one-time use code, not your actual real credit card information.
So, this was a chip card.
But it was not processed as a chip.
Okay.
See, it doesn't matter if a card has a chip if it's still being swiped like the old-fashioned way, because if you look at your card, it has both a chip on it and still has the magnetic strip on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're still swiping it like the old magnetic strip, there's no more security in that chip card than there would have been if there wasn't a chip in it. So it's not the weakness of your payment card. It's the weakness of the places you're using the card at. Typically, it would be the hotel.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this.
When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update. I'm Rita Foley. There's money to fight the Zika virus and money for Flint, Michigan residents and Louisiana flood victims in a spending bill that keeps the government from shutting down tomorrow night. AP Capitol Hill correspondent Jerry Bodlander drills down on this for us.
Winding up work ahead of the elections, the House followed the Senate in a